Can't imagine, you know. I try to put myself in that. I'm like, I know they're up. We were like, we know they're up. They're not sleeping. You know, we were up too. And you know, we're just like,
We're exhausted.
I know, I bet.
Partially delusional.
Where were you at when this happened?
I was at the park. I was at the park watching my son play football.
And
I take
August 27th, 2025. Southern California was waking up to another warm Wednesday. But somewhere off Freeway 60, everything changed. A father, shackled and silent, was led down a dirt embankment in a prison jumpsuit. Behind him, investigators, cameras, and a growing silence that felt heavier than the heat. That morning, a newly released audio cut arrived on the desks of detectives. And once they heard it, the story they thought they knew collapsed. In the audio, his voice is calm. Too calm. Each word delivered with the kind of distance that chills you. Like someone reading from a script they've already rehearsed too many times. What he said, and what he didn't, became a moment no one listening could forget. Because in that quiet voice was something louder than a confession. A betrayal. If you believe that baby Emmanuel deserves more than a passing headline, if you believe his story deserves our full, unwavering attention, then take a moment like this video as a quiet act of witness. Comment below and share where you're watching from. Because distance doesn't change the truth. And if you feel this case matters, subscribe. Not for clicks, not for numbers, but so that Emmanuel's name echoes beyond today and is never forgotten. On August 14th, 2025, just after noon, a call to 911 would spark a case that would grip the town of Yucaipa, and eventually the entire country. The caller was 23-year-old Rebecca Haro. She told police she'd pulled into the parking lot of a Big Five sporting goods store to change her 7-month-old son's diaper. A routine moment for a young mother on an ordinary day. But what she said happened next would turn that ordinary moment into a statewide emergency. According to her account, someone approached her while she was tending to her baby in the back seat. She claimed she was struck hard and blacked out. When she regained consciousness, Emmanuel was gone. No witnesses, no video, no suspect description. Just a missing baby and a panicked mother. Within hours, the search began. Local authorities issued an alert. Highway signs lit up with Emmanuel's name. Police combed through parking lots and alleyways. K-9 units tracked possible scents. Drones and helicopters scanned the desert brush. Volunteers flooded the streets with flyers. The community, shaken and grieving, gathered in prayer. Candlelight vigils were held on corners that had never seen news vans before. People cried together. Strangers held hands. For many, this wasn't just another headline. This was a child. And he belonged to all of them now. In those first 48 hours, hope burned bright. Parents hugged their children a little tighter. The town waited for news, believing, or needing to believe, that Emmanuel would be found safe. But beneath the surface, a quiet unease was already forming. Because while the community searched, the story itself began to unravel. At first, investigators treated the case as a possible abduction. The urgency was real. The resources were in place. But less than 24 hours later, that urgency took a different shape. Detectives began to quietly express concerns, not about what was missing, but about what wasn't adding up. Rebecca Haro's initial statement was detailed, but as follow-up questions were asked, critical inconsistencies began to surface. Timelines didn't match. Descriptions shifted. And in the middle of a scheduled interview with investigators, she abruptly stopped answering questions. That alone didn't prove anything, but it changed something. Meanwhile, detectives reviewed surveillance footage from nearby businesses. Rebecca had claimed there were no cameras in the parking lot where the alleged assault took place. That wasn't true. Footage from multiple angles showed movements, vehicles, and timelines that clashed with the version of events she had reported. What was once a call for a missing child was quietly becoming something else. A case built on contradictions. And for the first time, authorities began to ask a far more painful question. Not where Emmanuel had gone, but whether he had ever left that car alive. By August 22nd, just over a week after Emmanuel was reported missing, both parents, Rebecca and Jake Haro, were taken into custody. The case against them was built on multiple pieces of evidence: surveillance videos, extensive forensic searches, and K9 cadaver teams trained to detect human remains. Despite the exhaustive efforts, Emmanuel's body has not been found. However, authorities seized the family home, the baby's clothing, and the family vehicle, items now critical to the ongoing investigation. District Attorney Hestron stated they have a strong indication of where Emmanuel's remains may be located, though they have not disclosed details publicly. Throughout the investigation, a grim picture emerged. Authorities believe Emmanuel may have died sometime between August 5th and August 14th, before the reported kidnapping. Adding to the tragedy, Jake Haro had a previous conviction in 2023 for child cruelty involving another infant. He had avoided prison time, a fact prosecutors describe as a devastating failure of the system. This case now stands at the crossroads of painful loss, systemic shortcomings, and a community demanding answers. As the pieces of the investigation came together, authorities focused on three main theories, each carrying its own weight, and each tested against the facts. The first, that Emmanuel was taken by a stranger. At first, this seemed plausible, but as surveillance footage was reviewed and witness statements compared, cracks appeared. The evidence did not support the presence of an unknown perpetrator. No credible suspect emerged. The story told simply didn't align with what the cameras recorded. The second theory suggested an accidental death or the involvement of an unknown individual. Yet, extensive forensic work and careful interviews revealed no signs pointing beyond the immediate family. Investigators found no evidence of outside interference. This led to the third theory, one grounded in troubling but clear patterns. Parental involvement, particularly through abuse, became the focus, supported by previous convictions and corroborating evidence gathered in the search. District Attorney Hestron emphasized that this theory is not merely an accusation, but the result of careful, painstaking work. Experts familiar with child welfare cases note that such tragedies often unfold quietly, hidden behind closed doors. Understanding these patterns is critical, not to sensationalize, but to bring clarity to the investigation and to seek justice. At the heart of this case lies a profound and painful contradiction. The figure meant to protect a child, becoming the source of harm. Parental psychology experts describe this as a devastating breach of trust, one that challenges our deepest assumptions about safety and care. Investigators have spoken openly about a devastating failure within the justice system, pointing to past leniency as a factor that may have allowed this tragedy to unfold. In 2023, Jake Haro received a relatively light sentence for a prior conviction involving serious injury to another child in his care. Many now see that moment as a critical turning point when the system's response fell short, and the risk to Emmanuel increased. This case underscores the complex intersection between individual behavior and systemic responsibility. Experts emphasize the need for stronger protections, more vigilant follow-up, and a justice system equipped to intervene decisively before harm escalates. As news of Emmanuel's disappearance spread, social media quickly became a double-edged sword. Rumors swirled. Some channels claimed that Jake Haro led police directly to Emmanuel's grave, but law enforcement confirmed no remains were found on August 24th and cautioned against spreading unverified information. Across the community, reactions ranged from heartfelt vigils to speculative live streams, efforts that, while born from concern, often fueled confusion. These distractions risked overshadowing the profound heartbreak at the center of this case. Reflect with me for a moment. Would you have noticed the inconsistencies in this story? Could something like this unfold quietly in your own town? If this story has moved you, please comment below. Your insight matters, because silence can be complicit. Emmanuel's body remains unfound. Why has this final piece of the puzzle remained just out of reach? Will justice ever fully emerge from this silence? And beyond this case, how many children suffer in quiet, unseen pain? Victims of systems meant to protect them, yet too often failing. We must remember Emmanuel not as a case number, not as a headline lost in time, but as a baby whose story demands accountability, reform, and a commitment to change. Emmanuel Haro may be gone, but his story must not be. Let this be our solemn promise. We will bear witness. Share this video. Subscribe to ensure his name lives on in our conscience. And let your voice speak for him when he no longer can.